Oseo.
Oseo.
Summer solstice. That's what we're doing here today. And the way I've illustrated this for the past 20 some odd years is with this display here. And say quickly, you know, what this is. I've replicated this. This is a stone. The stone is, you see how it's shaped and everything. It's, the actual stone's about that high. It's located there in Nevada, overlooking the Truckee River. Truckee River runs east out of Reno there. And it's a Celtic inscribed stone. This has two aspects. One is Celtic and the other is Navajo. So I'll introduce you to that quickly, like that. This is a gnome in the sense that the sun and shadow go this way instead of this way on the sundial, like that. And it starts at the winter solstice, ostensibly where this stone is in the dark. This stone is coming out of the ground. It's located at a place that's called the Court of Antiquity. All the rocks there are very blocky. There's no other rock that looks like this whatsoever. It's made of granite. And so, starting from the dark, this is in the dark, the winter eagle comes up from Shinar, the underworld, underland, and crowns the top of the stone with light. And then thereafter, for the next 6 months, light is overtaking the stone until finally, here in the summer solstice, it is in the light, and in this is called the glory of Bel. And that's what's inscribed here. The Gaelic language, you know, has a system of writing that's called ogam. It basically means augment. And it was banished by the Roman Catholic Church in the 4th century. Whether that stopped people here in Turtle Island from using it, well, they probably didn't stop. So it's hard to tell exactly what the dating of this is, but that's what's written here. And it's actually a formula widespread throughout the Mediterranean. Yah, Hu, Bel. That's what it actually says. Robert Graves, in his book, The White Goddess, has done a real good job on this whole topic, where he finds that it had originated in Egypt. Also, starting with these words that modern people know, like Jehovah. Obviously, that is trying to make it out of a pseudo word called Yahweh, and that in turn has been derived out of the 4 letters, the tetragrammaton, in Roman letters, you know, YHWH, you know, or Yod, Ha, Va, He. The Yod, the Germans translating the Hebrew into German used the word Yod, as spelled with the aspirate, Y-O-D-H, Yod, into God, God, like that. In both cases, the aspirate eventually got dropped, and then you had the word God. But that's where it's come from. How am I saying that? This here, in the system of the ogam, is called a diphthong. That's where you have 2 vowels ring together. In Roman letters, you could write it I-A or Y-A. You could write it J-A, and that's also to tell you the letter J comes from Arabic. So all of those words or names that are using J, even like Jehovah or Jerusalem or what have you, you know, that's a misunderstanding of an Arabic letter. If you look at Arabic, you'll see that letter, and they're pronouncing it with a J. But it's all the diphthong, Yah. Here, this is most interesting, since this is not from the same system. This is from the system in Gaul. So that's very interesting, because that's a clue to who did the inscription here. Must have come from the Mediterranean rather than the British Isles. Gaul is a Celtic country, but also occupied by the Romans, and maybe the natives there, you know, devised a alphabet there that similar to Roman letters, but so that looks like a letter C, and it is. It's for Kalman. Kalman means dove. Now, what does that mean? Dove is the queen of the moon, and she rules the solar year. Hu, the moon is Hu, and there's no way to write that in this system, so whoever this ingenious inscriber was borrowed this letter from the Gaul system. That is the letter C. It's written in the stone. I should have finished a little bit. This stone has a bowl near the top. It's about a 2-gallon perfect bowl, and it has a lip above that bowl, and that's where this letter is inscribed. And I've kind of made a reflection of the moon in it because all bowls are the property of the moon. So the formula is Yahoo, but since you can't write the who like that, the inscriber has used this to say in Gaelic, Calman, dove. Dove is the queen of the moon who rules the solar year. All of that's there. And that here, these are the Ogham letters for Bel. Actually, the Ogham system itself is not phonetic. It's all in terms of digits, you know, how many digits. And it actually does start with B and L. So in Irish, it is called Beth Lewis. Beth Lewis means, you know, the first 2 letters like alpha, beta there. And again, this is the diphthong Ya, which in this sense also means exalt. Exalting the moon. Exalting the moon. So when all of this is fully in the light, then this is the glory of Bel. Now, who is Bel? Bel is not really a legend or a myth. He is actually, in the Celtic, is the son of her, the son Graham. He is her Mach Savol. And he is usually figured as the disk of the sun. And in Egypt, of course, they have the winged disc they call Aton, but that would also be Bel. The obelisk, you all know, that's been, they have one there in Washington, and they think it was out of Egypt, you know. And that actually means Bel speaks. Bel, Bel. The obelisk is a Greek rendering of Bel, Bel. And the ones in Egypt were dressed and faced with gold, like that. Where the Celtic never used dressed stones, they used only natural stones. So that's that. Now we're going to the Navajo aspect. I have done a number of versions of this stone, and some of the times I have even artists in evidence in the San Diego schools and Nevada schools, and I have presented this. The neat thing about it in Nevada, the students there all know this. They get with it right away. They know right where it is once I tell them. So all of that. There is a Navajo aspect to this, and that's very interesting. So I have to do a little bit of explanation here. Again, these people being called Navajo, the Americans have derived this from Spanish maps that actually are written Apute Navajo. And the name Navajo, the Spanish rendering of it, is a Tewa-speaking pueblo in New Mexico, and somehow the Apache are the people surrounding it. However, they put all that together. The interesting thing is that the Navajo, their relatives, continue, and their ancestors who still live in the region of Khotan. Khotan is that when you go down the Himalayas, all the way in the Tarim Basin down here, this area right here, their ancestors and their relatives still live there by the same name. They're called the Natane. The people here don't call themselves Navajo, they call themselves the Natane. It means the people. It actually is an Indic name, showing that they also speak an Indic language, while at the same time they have Turkic roots to their language. And an illustration of this is reported in Indian Country Today recently. A group of Native American representatives went to Turkey to strike up some commercial business. And one of the women, I don't remember her name, but she was a Navajo speaking, like that, and she suddenly realized that she could understand the Turkish language. And then when she went out in the country, the rural country, she thought, wow, these people live just like my people. You know, she probably did not yet know how to put that together. But it is an indication that the roots of the language that the people are speaking in Arizona there are Turkic. The Apache are speaking a relative language, would be a comparison of Spanish and Portuguese. They're both Turkic languages outright. So that's very interesting, and at least somebody's picked up on something of it. I've just brought this book to illustrate here. I found this on a Fillmore Street bookstore. This is putting together the Navajo and Tibetan sacred wisdom, the circle of the spirit. So the author has put the two, you go like this, and go all the way through. What the Navajo is, what the Tibetan is, and goes all the way through, including sand paintings and swastikas and everything else, including they both live on a latitude of the same plateau, the same area, all the way across. So he put that all together, so it's quite interesting in that way of seeing the relationship. These people didn't come over the Bering Straits, they came on Chinese ships. The Ming Dynasty built a fleet of ocean-going ships beginning in the late 14th century all the way up to the 17th century and made landfalls all along the coast here. Professor Moriarty of San Diego State did a whole paper on all the Chinese anchors found up here, Pacific Palisades. The other landfall is down at Acapulco. People of the so-called Apache nations know that they came on Chinese ship from Acapulco up to Arizona. So these people mostly have come here, it looks like, in the 16th, 15th, 16th, 17th century and so forth. And also you will notice that you never see so-called Apache people, including Geronimo, wearing feathers or feather headdresses. They all wear turbans, which itself is a Turkic word, turban, like that. And I have a wonderful photograph of Geronimo, with his turban. And their boots. Pretty much, if you see pictures of people in Afghanistan and Central Asia, you'll see they are still dressed pretty much the same way with the tunics. As the only difference is that the people over here in the 19th century had long hair. Well, anyway, you can see all the gist of that. So now to kind of bring this over to the Navajo using the same thing, the same stone here. Navajo, this is called the Sky Reaching Rock. And they have a healing way, chant way for this. And this here, I've kind of made a substitute here to show that the Hatali means the chanter. And he actually makes a replica of this out of clay, just about that height, for the dry painting that goes with it, for, the healing way ceremony. And so I've used all of these Navajo images in this rendition. Going back to the winter solstice, this is going to be the birth time, or December's child, of Born for Water, Tobatsitsini. And I rendered him here from a Navajo rendering of Tobatsitsini, born from water. He's born out of this pool of water here that overflows. It flows over, and Coyote picks him up. It's kind of the midwife, and picks him up and holds him up, and that's the birth of Born for Water. And his symbol is this. Painted on his body is that symbol, like that. And on rocks and so forth in Arizona, you will see, even independently of any body or anything, this symbol. That means that's who he symbolizes, for that. So he is December's child. Here in Navajo, this is the water bearer, and this is the beaver, a water power person. So all this water surrounding it. Also, again, this is overlooking the Truckee River there. And here I rendered in Navajo style the person of the eagle. So here you can see all that. So now I will again treat you with another beautiful poem from your favorite poet. You know who it is already. Mary Oliver. And this one is In Backwater Woods. Look, the trees are turning their own bodies into pillars of light, are giving off the rich fragrance of cinnamon and fulfillment. The long tapers of cattails are bursting and floating away. The blue shoulders of the ponds, of every pond, no matter what its name is nameless now. Every year, everything I have ever learned in my lifetime leads back to this, the fires and the black river of loss, whose other side is salvation, whose meaning none of us will ever know. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your life depends on it, and when the time comes to let go, to let go. What blazes the trail is not necessarily pretty.